Yeah.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rae Frank, and I direct the Independent Living Center. On behalf of our entire team, I'd like to welcome Senator Schumer, members of the press, and all of our guests. Independent Living Centers are unique. We are run by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. Our guiding principle is simple and powerful: nothing about us without us. We amplify the voices of people with disabilities. Our services are built around a person-centered approach. Individuals set their own goals, and we work beside them to achieve them. For many of the people we serve, one of the most urgent goals is securing affordable and accessible housing. We are not a landlord that provides housing, but we assist with navigating the system with dignity. No one aspires to homelessness. It goes against human nature to live without safety, without a roof over our heads. Sometimes life's challenges, job loss, illness, domestic violence, or an unexpected crisis bring people to that point. I'd like everyone to imagine just for a moment, what would it feel like to not have a home to return to tonight? If you have a car, imagine sleeping in it overnight. If you don't have a car or family or friends who can take you in, your options shrink even further. Compassion and human decency tell us that housing is not a luxury, it's a basic human right. That's why HUD's Rapid Rehousing Funding is so critical. It's a program that helps people move from homelessness to stable housing. Right now, the funding that supports this work across Western New York is under threat. We are grateful that Senator Schumer is standing with our community and advocating for the individuals who rely on these housing resources to rebuild their lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me thank Rae for the great job she does at the Independent Living Center of the Genesee region. So first, before I get into substance, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I hope we all have something to be thankful for. And I'm going to tell you my little Thanksgiving story, because I was born on Thanksgiving Day. It's not this year, you know, she shifts around because it's the fourth Thursday. My birthday was Sunday this year. But in any case, my mom went into labor at 5:30 a.m. This is way back when I was born. And what happened then is the dads would help the mom pack up and then drive them to the hospital. The hospital that my mom was scheduled to give birth at was called French Hospital. The French Hospital was run by an order of French nuns. Why an order of French nuns had a hospital in the middle of Manhattan? It was at 29th Street and 7th Avenue. Location's important, as you'll see in a minute. Is beyond me. You'd think they'd have a hospital in the suffering places in Africa or somewhere like that. In any case, they had a hospital there. So my dad gets to the hospital at about 7:30, 8 o'clock, packs my mom up. And in those days, excuse me, in those days, the men were put in some little room where they were supposed to pace the floors, smoke cigars, and wait for the upcoming blessed event, which was even more anticipatory than usual, because in those days you couldn't tell ahead of time if it would be a boy or girl. But my dad was a free spirit, and he's on 29th Street and 7th Avenue, and he says, "What's 4 blocks away?" Any of you have lived in Manhattan, you know, Macy's. He said, "What's going on? The parade." He said, "I'll go watch the parade." He gets there at 9, stays till noon. At that point, he bumped into a friend of his, and they said, "Let's go into the local pub here and celebrate the upcoming blessed event." Well, P.S., I was born at 11 a.m. My dad showed up at 4:30 p.m., precipitating the first fight my parents had over me. But, and you know, my mom told me a while later, she said, "You know, I didn't really believe it, but I thought, well, maybe he's just skipping out." You know, there were no cell phones. He didn't know where he was, not in the hospital room. In any case, they were married 72 beautiful years, so it didn't do too much damage. But a happy Thanksgiving to one and all. Okay, so we're here today at the Center for Independent Living in the Genesee region to talk about a very important topic, more important than ever before, housing. Because this month, the Trump administration is making plans to slash funding to one of HUD's most critical programs and put the homeless back on the streets. And that's called the continuum of care. It would limit the number of people that it can help, and it means thousands across America would no longer have a home. They'd be left high and dry, and they'd be kicked onto the streets. let's be clear. Congress appropriated this funding. It's there. Has nothing to do with shutdown or cutbacks. The funding is there. But the administration is trying to kick people to the curb in the middle of this all. In the middle of winter, they're trying to kick people to the curb. That's cruel, it's wrong, and it's probably illegal because Congress already allocated the funds. They've been doing that a lot. So local organizations like Independent Living for the Genesee region, use this fund to stabilize rental housing units where our most vulnerable neighbors can live. And while they transition from homelessness to stability and self-sufficiency, which happens all the time, as we're going to hear in a few minutes. It's especially critical in rural areas, because there's less funding. They made this podium too low now. Go ahead, Chris. Where there's less funding to fill gaps in the budget. Now look at this poster. If these changes go through, look what happens, okay? 1,000 households in Western New York face eviction to the streets in Genesee, Wyoming, Orleans, Niagara, and Erie County. 430 households in Monroe County, Rochester, will face eviction, and 113 in January, the middle of winter. They want to kick these people out, even though the money is there. Evicting people back to homelessness destroys lives, worsens public safety, strains emergency rooms of local governments, shelters, and emergency services, and puts the homeless back on the streets, which is not the place they want to be or anyone else wants them to be. So it's really important to try and prevent these cuts from happening, okay? Groups like Independent Living and the YWCA in Genesee County, I don't know if they're represented here. Jamie, thank you. And state and local governments quickly rehouse the homeless families and help them become self-sufficient. That's the goal, not just to give a person a home, a permanent rental home, but to make them self-sufficient so they can move on, and then the home can be for somebody else. Cyclical. It's had huge success here in the Rochester Finger Lakes area. Rochester's designated Continuum of Care program, that's called Partners for Ending Homelessness, provides permanent housing assistance to 600 families in Monroe County alone. These changes would cut this federal homeless support to the bone. 70% of these homes would be gone, and the people would be out on the streets. And so it's so cruel that even under HUD's own rules, the families that would be evicted back into homelessness are not eligible to be transferred to other temporary housing. It's almost saying you have to be out on the streets. Makes no sense. Okay? So organizations through Rochester, the Finger Lakes, Western New York fear it's going to lead to a surge in homelessness right here. In Monroe County, funding for this housing would be slashed from $14 million to $4 million, down by 2/3. At least 434 people would be kicked to the curb this year. Plus 113 people stand eviction starting as soon as January. In the middle of winter. And here in Genesee County in Western New York, it's worse. Funding to the Homeless Alliance of Western New York that covers Genesee, Wyoming, Orleans, Niagara, and Erie counties would be slashed from $20 million to $6.7 million. More than 1,000 occupied housing units managed by over 22 nonprofit providers would be cut. And that means 1,000 of the 1,521 people now living in these units would face eviction and be back on the streets, forcing hundreds of New Yorkers throughout the Rochester Finger Lakes area in the middle of winter, with temperatures freezing below, dropping to freezing below 9, is cruel. And who are these people? These are veterans who are down on their luck. There could be a woman and her family who's subject to spousal abuse. They could be someone who became disabled, or someone middle-class family, and that both breadwinners, if there are two of them, lose their jobs. They can't pay the rent. It's our neighbors, it's our friends, it's people. So we're going to do everything we can to try and stop this. It should not be a partisan issue, and in fact, local Republican officials throughout this region are for keeping the program. But Trump Doge people up there. They just want to cut everything, and they don't even know the consequences of what they're cutting. That's why we're here, to talk about the consequences of what they're cutting. Our Attorney General, Tish James, is leading 20 other state attorneys general, red and blue, with a lawsuit to keep the funds going. But we can't rest. We need to get the Trump administration to back off this cruel order. I want to assure the people here and all the people you represent, I'm going to do everything I can. We're going to not stop fighting until Trump backs down, because so many of our families depend on it. All right, now, we have a few speakers that I'm going to call on, and I can find the sheets amidst. Do I have that here?
Yeah, I think.
Yes. So Tree Clemens, the Executive Director of Monroe County's Partners for Ending Homelessness, is our next speaker. Tree.
Good morning, everyone. As Senator Schumer mentioned, my name is Tree Clemens. I'm the Executive Director for Partners Ending Homelessness, a continuum of care that serves Monroe County, New York. Today, I want to discuss a critical aspect of our nation's efforts to combat homelessness, the continuum of care, or COC. The COC model was created by Congress in 1987 and is a community-wide planning body responsible for organizing and delivering housing and services to homeless individuals and families as they move towards stability and self-sufficiency. In short, its mission is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring.
Right. Good
The
adjectives.
yes.
Rare, brief, and non-recurring.
The COC's responsibilities are multifaceted and start with identifying the needs of our local homeless population. This involves collecting data and conducting a gap analysis to understand the resources available and what's still needed in each community. The COC sets funding priorities unique to each community, develops short and long-term strategies, and prepares a comprehensive plan to address homelessness. It also establishes criteria for project selection and monitors funded projects to ensure effectiveness and efficient use of your tax dollars. However, our ability to fulfill these responsibilities is now severely challenged by the fiscal year 2025 Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFO. While HUD is making a small increase in funds nationally, a primary weakness of this endeavor is the reduction of funds available for permanent supportive housing to 30% of the total allowable funds nationally. This forces COCs to reallocate funds from existing permanent housing projects. And in Monroe County, New York, that shifts a displacement of 434 residents from stable housing. The statewide number is over 13,000. The households being displaced were homeless, have a diagnosed disability, and will not qualify for the transitional housing projects planned in this NOFO, and will therefore become homeless over the next year. In addition to causing homelessness with this new model, the federal funding ending for those projects means landlords and property managers will lose the federal portion of the rent dollars. The healthcare system will see an influx of emergency room visits. The eviction courts will be strained, not unlike during COVID. And we'll see an increase of people living outside, which is now illegal under this administration. Finally, there are concerns about new prohibitions that can disqualify any project from receiving funding to serving the homeless. HUD may reject projects for engaging in racial preferences, using a definition of sex other than binary, or conducting activities viewed as harm reduction for people struggling with a substance use disorder. Housing our homeless and disabled neighbors is a critical and data-driven first step to improving self-sufficiency and positive health outcomes. The challenges posed by the fiscal year 2025 NOFO are significant, But by working together, strategically reallocating resources, and advocating for policy change, we can mitigate the harm and continue to make progress towards ending homelessness in our communities. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Kexen Ma. She's the Executive Director of the Homeless Alliance in Western New York. Thank you,
Thank
Kexen.
you, Senator. So again, my name is Kexen Ma from the Homeless Alliance. Currently, 93% of our HUD continuum of care funding supports 29 different permanent support housing and rapid way housing. And this program keeps more than 1,500 of our neighbors who are most in need in stable housing. Under the new HUD COC guideline, only 30% of the funding and the program will be guaranteed, putting over 1,000 people at immediate risk of being homeless. This shift is not just a budget cut, is a rapid structural overhaul that the community are being asked to absorb with virtually no transition time. Many people currently stably housed in permanent support housing or rapid way housing would no longer qualify for the new program that the administration support, which means program may have to force clients to end their leases early and push people back to homelessness. Our shelters are already overwhelmed. It will cost the local governments 3 times to shelter the people than to house them. Landlords too are left without guidance, and that uncertainty jeopardizes thousands of property owners and destabilize the local housing market. We appreciate Senator Schumer's push to reverse this HUD plan and try to protect our value and our community. HUD's plan in cutting proven permanent support housing or destabilizing people that are already in housing will only increase homelessness, strain emergency shelter, and push vulnerable family, survivor of domestic violence, and people with severe health condition at greater risk. Thank you.
Kexen. Thank you very much. The next speakers are Amy and grandson Marquise. They are tenant advocates. Amy, go ahead.
Just Amy's here. That's okay. That's okay.
Hi, I'm Amy. I've been on the program for about a year, which started with passing of my parents, followed by an eviction, where I was placed into a motel with my grandson. I got custody of my grandson. The rapid rehousing program helped me get an apartment. They helped me while I got him situated in Head Start. Sorry, I'm nervous.
It's okay, you're doing good.
They helped me, giving me time to get things in order so that I could be more self-sufficient for myself and for my grandson. It's allowing my daughter now, who has been sober for over a year, to reconnect with her son and build the relationship back again with me and my daughter. Without them, I don't know where I would be. Thank you.
Very good. Our last speaker is Leon Bloom. He's a former tenant advocate. He's co-owner of Lammy Tion Creation Clothing Design.
Thank you. Good morning, Leon. Was invited here today to share a little bit of my story, and I want to highlight a moment in that story with everybody. A little bit of backstory. That life is a cycle of trauma, alcohol abuse, incarceration. 12 years old, started drinking. 16, serving 9 years. Get out a year, serving 3 years after that. Get out 3 months, serving 10 years. Get out in 2023. life hit me. All I know to do in that cycle is drink, and started drinking, find myself arrested again, faced with the option of go back to jail or get treatment. So I got treatment. Did 4 months of treatment, I was discharged, right back to square one. Homeless, broke, no money, nowhere to go. Saw some assistance with social services. They couldn't give me rapid housing or emergency housing. And my now wife, she referred me to come down to independent living. I came down, I met with Kristen Lazzaroni, and within an hour, the rapid rehousing program had put me in a hotel. I was able to check that box off of my list of worries and focus on something else. For me, that was employment. It's crazy because these programs, it's about housing right now, but they offer other services. There was continued support with that. They gave me bus passes to get to the interviews. They gave me job leads, continued encouragement. That's what I needed at that point. I was at a fragile point. When I got to that door that day, before I met with Kristen, my mind was made up. I was either gonna get some help or I was going back to get a drink. And I got help that day. Over the course of that year, I got a job, met back with Kristen, got out of temporary housing to something more stable, and I started a company. I started Lamentian Creations and Custom Apparel Printing, and now we've moved that out of an apartment into a commercial space. We're working in the community. Now I'm able to do things in the community because of that moment. Like, that was the moment right there. That was pivotal. I would have just went right back. So I'm just grateful to be able to advocate now for a program that I know had that impact in my life and can have that impact in other lives. So thank you.
We have two other guests here who are not speaking, but they are involved, very heavily involved. Stephanie Orlando, she's the CEO of Western New York Independent Living in Buffalo. Where are you, Stephanie? Thank you. And Jamie Beaton-Rada, MSM Executive Director of the YWCA of Genesee County. Thank you. Okay, we'll take questions on this subject. Questions from the media.
I've got a couple. First of all, Senator, Kathy Hochul yesterday announced $125 million towards homeless. How's that interface with this, or help that issue, or is that dealing with different?
I haven't seen what she's offered, so I'll take a look. I do know that Tish James, our Attorney General, is in court suing to get this money back with 20 other attorneys general. Does anyone know here if Hochul's money helps here? We don't know yet. She just announced it.
So as you know, Senator, I'm from Genesee County.
Yes.
What, if you or anybody else, what's the impact that this could be on Genesee County?
It's a huge impact. I think I mentioned
we have numbers, or?
Yes, I do. No, I don't think we have Genesee County numbers.
So,
Can you step up to the mic, please?
I don't have the exact, but I believe right now Genesee, Orland, Wyoming receive about $1.2 million, and obviously if we only can sustain 30% of it, that will be a huge loss for this region.
Yeah.
Do we know the scope of homelessness in the county now? And then one of the things we hear about here with more than people being on the street, although I think we're seeing a little bit of uptick of that, is what they call couch surfing.
The funding that covers Genesee as well as a few other neighboring counties, not Erie, but the smaller counties, would go from 20 million to 6.7 million and eliminate 1,000 currently occupied units in those 4 counties.
How serious is homeless in Genesee County right now?
We are definitely seeing an increase in people needed shelter. So without this funding, the local government will have to put more resources in sheltering people.
Okay. Senator, one more question for you, and a skeptical question.
That's all right.
You're talking about taking on the Republicans on this funding, and frankly, it didn't go so well with the shutdown and protecting ACA. And what confidence can we have that you'll be able to deal with this?
Well, the bottom line is we have a lot of local Republican officials here and elsewhere who are putting pressure on their congresspeople. And we have a new budget coming up where the Republicans have to meet us, and we have a good chance of restoring it in the new budget.
Have you spoken with Penny about it?
But no, but I hope that people hear what
Yes,
you have.
yes.
What does she say?
We've spoken with her representatives, Phil Dow from this area, and, I can't remember the other gentleman's name.
All right, what did they say?
That they would take everything that we've said back to Tenny, and
Yeah.
that's all of the community.
We've won on a bunch of these things, and the court case can win as well. Okay, any other questions on this? Okay,